Hi there, and you know what it's like when you've had too long off for Christmas and you need to get out the house before you go stir crazy. Well, I decided to take a short break to Great Yarmouth, which I'd heard was a lovely place with friendly people and steeped in strange history, and so it turned out to be, with ghosts, witches, murders, disasters and body snatchers. And please forgive my video of the starlings, but I thought they were amazing. So please join me as I take a small trip into the lovely place and its history. Well, here I am at the Toll House Jail in Great Yarmouth, where unfortunately we've got here, and I've done a bit of videoing, talked to a very nice curator of the place, but unfortunately due to COVID it's closed at the moment and won't be open till April. So that's a bit disappointing, but never mind. I've taken a bit of video and I'm going to give you a bit of a story of the things that have happened here. It's a very interesting place, built in about the 10th century. So I hope you enjoy it, and I'll talk to you later. The fantastic building, which is so out of place among all the modern buildings it's housed against, was first built as a merchant's house around 800 years ago, but is much more famous for its visitors as a police station, court and jail. It has, to say the least, had a very colourful past. The infamous body snatcher Thomas Vaughan was imprisoned here, but more on him later in the episode. It was here that in 1645 the infamous and feared witchfinder general Matthew Hopkins came out to weed out the witches of Great Yarmouth. 11 people, including 2 men, were tried at the toll house, and 5 women were found guilty. Elizabeth Bradwell, Anne Cliswell, Bridgetta Howard, Maria Blackburn and Elizabeth Dudgeon were all found guilty and hung on the 29th of September 1645 on what is now the racecourse on the Jellicoe Road on the edge of the Yarmouth-Caister border. They were then taken down and buried in an unmarked grave together in the north side of St. Nicholas's graveyard. Incidentally, 2 of the women who were tried and executed at the Salem witch trials in Massachusetts in 1692 were 2 elderly sisters, Rebecca Nurse and Mary Easty, who were both born in Great Yarmouth. The black oval-shaped gate set at pavement level led to the dungeons. One of the cells is the condemned cell, which when the museum is open you can go inside. But a lot of people have reported having a terrible feeling of hopelessness and sorrow when inside and have left in floods of tears. One experienced ghost hunter reported on a night tour she lasted just 3 minutes inside before banging and demanding to be let out. The end of the toll house is where the gallows used to stand. Of all the ancient roads in Yarmouth, Kitty Witch's Row, which ran from King Street to Middlegate, was one of the most famous and narrowest, being just 27 inches at some parts. Only a small section survives now, and that is what I'm walking down. But why Kitty Witch's Row? There are a few explanations, but no one really knows for sure. But one of the most popular is that it was customary many years ago for women of ill repute to don themselves in men's shirts over their own clothes and smear their faces with blood. They would then go in gangs house to house, terrifying the inhabitants into donating to a cause of which no one can now remember. Those women were called Kitty Witches, and the row was named in remembrance of them. on my tour of Great Yarmouth. I'm outside St Nicholas's, that's Great Yarmouth Minster, where quite a lot of strange things have happened over the last few hundred years. Basically, I'll be telling you a story of ghosts and Egyptian princesses, mummified Egyptian princesses, and body snatchers. So we'll carry on just looking at the Minster, and I'll let you know the stories as we go. The Minster of Great Yarmouth, or the Church of St Nicholas, has had many strange tales attributed to it, one of which is about a mummified Egyptian princess in a casket, which was given by a teacher to the priory school adjacent to the Minster in, I believe, the mid-1800s. Because it smelt so badly, due, they thought, to a faulty seal on the casket, the school asked the church if they could have the mummy buried in the churchyard, and they agreed to this. In the dead of one night, the mummy was moved to a new casket and buried, and the old casket returned to the school. Over the course of the next few days, a tapping was heard at the vicarage door, but when the vicar opened it, nobody was there. When stories reached him that this was happening to other church members too, they decided to reopen the casket in the school, whereupon they discovered an arm. The arm was reunited with the remains of the princess, and the tapping ceased. October of 1922, 3 ghosts in armour riding on white horses in St Nicholas's graveyard were spotted, causing 8 people in Howard Street to die of shock, allegedly. Thousands of widely excited children were drawn to Church Plain and Northgate Street, where they peered through the railings for hours in hope they would see something. Every now and then someone would shout that they had seen something, driving the crowd into an absolute frenzy. The police searched for the ghosts but found nothing, and nobody in the crowd was brave enough to volunteer to go with the one church official who offered to take a look around the graveyard. About 8 months later, a woman confessed to being the ghost. She said she had been suffering from hallucinations. How she managed to be 2 more knights and 3 white horses wasn't explained though. Thomas Vaughan, as you will already have seen from the blue plaque picture on the railings outside the church, was a resurrectionist, or more commonly known, a body snatcher, who exhumed at least 10 bodies in 1827 from the Minster graveyard. He took rooms at, it is said, row 6, but it is more likely to be row 3, where he could keep an eye on burials, etc. He would then get 2 men under his employ, William and Robert Baker, to dig up the fresh bodies. He received 10 to 12 guineas for each, around £750 today, and sadly more for a pregnant woman. They were brought to his rooms, carefully packed in carts in sawdust, and then, when ready, transported to London. The ironic thing about all this was the mastermind behind all this was a man called Sir Astley Cooper, who was a renowned surgeon to Queen Victoria, but he was also the vicar of St Nicholas's son. Now, he employed local body snatchers to dig up bodies for an anatomical dissection at surgeon schools. Eventually, Vaughan was caught, but because it was only a felony and not really a crime at the time, he only received a sentence of 6 months hard labour at the toll house. When he was released, however, he carried on his business in Plymouth, but was caught keeping the victim's clothes, which is a crime, and he was sent to Australia. This is formerly the Benedictine Priory, which eventually would become the school where the mummified Egyptian princess would have been kept before she was buried. Whether the original casket is still in here, I couldn't find out. It was while I was walking around the front of this building that this one gravestone stood out to me. I took a picture, and when I got back to my hotel room, studied it more. I found out it was the grave of one of 79 people, most of them children, who were killed when a suspension bridge over the River Bure collapsed on the 2nd of May 1845. The bridge was packed with people to see a circus stunt by Nelson the Clown of William Cook's Circus. He was being pulled in a bathtub on the river by 4 geese from Haven Bridge at Hall Quay to the suspension bridge in North Quay. The weight was too much and the rods gave way, sending the bridge crashing into the river. A big stone memorial was erected in 2013. The grave I saw was to George Bellow, aged 9, and at the top of the stone you can see an engraving of the collapsing bridge.